right, and welcome to episode 1 of the new Blood Rising podcast. The evolution of the Under Duress podcast is now complete. Now, this is going to be fun. This is Critical Bill coming to you here, and like I said, what's going to be interesting here is there are a billion wrestling podcasts out there where people talk about what's going on Raw, and it's all about the same thing. That's what ours was for a while, but we needed to do something different. The one podcast that's not out there, that you can't throw a dart at, is the coveted WCW version of the Attitude Era. That's right. We are going to chronicle, well, when Vince Russo stepped into the doors of the Atlanta-based World Championship Wrestling and tried to duplicate the success that he had up north with the WWF. That's what we're going to start with. We're going to be kicking off with Halloween Havoc 99 in a moment. Joining me in this journey, and it's going to be a wild journey here, down the road here of WCW's version of the Attitude Era, the New Blood Era. I've got first, you know him from the Under Duress podcast, what we were doing before. It's the Jason Keisler. Jason, are you excited to be a part of this now?
I'm just excited now that there's a third man. I'm no longer bottom billed. That's how you move up in the card, baby.
Speaking of this, so that's the fun thing is you've heard the third man joining the booth here. He's going to be the Jesse Ventura of the podcast because he's going to have the one-liners.
Why is the champion coming out first, McMahon?
That is the great Charlie Stabile, a.k.a. Chuck Stabs. He's
Chuck Stabs. I'm just happy to get the "and" credit here, Bill.
The "and" that's right.
With the little square on the box.
I always love the debate. What's stronger, the "with" or the "and"? I'm like, it's the "and".
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, up until you got here, I was the with always, the monkey fucking sidekick on, and I just dance for the people.
So here we are. This is what's fun about this experiment here. That takes us back to college. That one, this noble experiment. Yes. This experiment, what's interesting about it is what people remember about the WCW Attitude Era. It's so weird saying that, but it was an attempt. It was an attempt. Is that the fact that it's so made fun of. It's not ever looked at in high regard, and for good reason. The company shut down. People left. They didn't want to watch it anymore. But the experiment here is to just experience it as it was going on. Don't look ahead to what eventually happens, people leaving, company closing, people killing their families. We're not going to be talking about that kind of stuff. We want to really just focus on as it was happening, because the end result is maybe there was some stuff in there that was better than we remember, or maybe we never saw it and we wish we might have, because wow, that's pretty cool. But thankfully for the WWE, with the WWE Network now, we have the opportunity to revisit this stuff, and that's where we're going to be starting. Halloween Havoc 99. So we were talking about this. Russo and Ferrara start the Nitro before. Am I saying this?
Ed Ferrara.
Ferrara, right. Okay. All right. They start the Monday Nitro before Havoc. So I guess before that point, I forget who was. It wasn't really. Was it Bischoff who was still in the?
Or was it No, because Kevin Sullivan was after, or was it? Because
okay, so I think we're going to be running into the timeline. Unfortunately, the Russo era won here in WCW. I think lasts all of 3 months before.
Yeah, it's not long,
but we'll be getting to that down the road. But regardless, the Nitro before is when Russo took over and the powers that be angle kind of started, and there was a noticeable change already. A lot of the things we were accustomed to seeing with Russo appeared. You've got women supremely objectified in the worst possible way. But you've also got wrestlers that now are on camera vocally going against management. Almost the work shoot is starting to become a bigger proponent of the show. And then the third is just short, quick matches that don't end with a real finish. We get, it's almost like he adopted the wrestling's Aaron Sorkin kind of thing with walking and talking backstage, quick vignettes, cuts back and forth, 90 seconds. We're talking about beefaroni. I don't know.
It's attention deficit disorder. Right?
Yes.
It would have been kind of an improvement to see that, quite honestly.
So, I know what my thoughts are on it going into it was that I didn't watch this at the time. So I know who the people are, obviously, but Jason, you watched this, right? So, what did you think of Nitro and the pay-per-views right around this time period back then?
Well, it was a very sudden change. and not in that like, well, I lost a lot of weight over the summer. Hey, I'm a new person in high school. Maybe I'm an asshole kind of way. But like the, hi, I'm your new teacher. Your teacher died yesterday, and I'm gonna try to be crazy to connect with you. It was so quick, so in your face, so over the top, and I'm trying not to look down the road,
right?
But heartbreaking.
Right, and some things will slip out. It's okay. I mean, like, that's not a problem. But it's not like, hey, when we run into Mike Awesome, the fact that he kills himself probably won't get mentioned for good reason because it's not really relevant in terms of the timeline.
Right, because it didn't happen during this.
So. Right. No. Charlie, you're in my boat because we were pretty much like 100% WWE guys at this point.
Hardcore.
I mean, like, because I'm trying to remember when I jumped off, and I think it was right when Goldberg lost. I was like, I feel kind of done.
When he lost to Nash at Starrcade?
Yeah,
that was bad, and it was bad. And that people forget, the finger poke of doom.
Oh, God.
Everyone always talks about that, but what they don't usually mention is that was Kevin Nash's title reign that he took from Goldberg.
That's it.
From the streak. And I had actually forgotten about that until a couple of days ago, and that actually makes it so much worse.
And of course, that's the same night as the Butts and Seats comment.
Right, the Butts and Seats comment. Mm-hmm. Boy, what a joining of bad stuff just all around WCW.
Yeah, and you think that's a Nitro in the Georgia Dome. Like, you're going to bring it heavy, but that seemed to be like the...
It wasn't the Nitro right after Starrcade, but wasn't it like...
It was either the one after or
the
two.
First of the new year, right?
Yeah,
it
January,
was.
Yeah, I got it.
So that would
January
be,
4th.
That's right.
Oh, you got that.
Mm-hmm. And
I love this. Explain because people can't see what you're reading. Obviously, tell them what you have at your disposal.
Every year, Pro Wrestling Illustrated used to put out an almanac. And, I was a big Back to the Future Part 2 fan. So I was like, I always have to have the almanac. And it's very interesting because it breaks down pretty much everything that happens up until that point. And right now what I'm looking at is the ratings numbers for the entire year. And the January 4th, I mean, it's amazing how close it was.
Charlie goes back in time to like July of '98, and he's like, "I'm betting 50."
Almanac work in reverse.
He's like, "I'm betting $100,000 that Hulk Hogan beats Kevin Nash with one move to get the title, and it's gonna happen in January of '99."
Well, I think it's worth pointing out because I was looking at this last night that January 4th Nitro. So that's 10 months prior to the night we're talking about.
Right.
Nitro scored a 5 rating as opposed to Raw, which had a 5.8. Now, if you go and look through the months leading up to October, WWF's ratings stay consistent with the 5.8, 5.5, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nitro at this point gets down to about a 3, a 2.9. And this is, because, the first couple of weeks, WCW's in the 5 range, and you can slowly start to see it just go down. And that's what's great about this book. Is just like, wow, like I wish I could remember those Nitros.
Because I remember like sold out, like that main event was supposed to be Goldberg getting his revenge on Hall, I think was the big deal about that. And I was like, I'm sorry, that's not a big deal to me because I know there's only one way this match ends. It's a spear and a jackhammer, and that's the end. Like that was kind of the... It's a bummer because, we've seen guys since then who have been monsters that have been built up and they've lost after being undefeated for a while and they've been okay. This was a case where it didn't seem like it was okay, at least not for a while, because in all honesty, I think the build to, obviously the main event for Havoc as it was built here, Halloween Havoc 99, is Goldberg and Sid for the U.S. title. It's kind of funny that the U.S. title is in the main event, but... I dug this build going in retrospect on it, like looking through some of the Nitros, because the way Sid, who it's awesome. I forget when Sid reappeared in this era, but it was kind of cool to see him back in the game because we hadn't seen him since like '97. Was that about when
Royal Rumble '97? No.
Or was it?
Yeah.
Or was WrestleMania? He did.
Who did he fight at Mania? Oh, Undertaker.
Yeah, he
Undertaker.
dropped the belt.
Yeah,
yeah. And so you have that. That's our main event here tonight. So that's nice. It's interesting. Like I said, Goldberg is obviously built to be the destroyer, doing everything he can to get into, get at Sid, to get the coveted U.S. title that it's slowly.
And he had a cool nickname. I love the Millennium Man.
Yes,
I thought that was a great name.
Claimed he was undefeated as the Millennium Man. I was like, this is great. So anytime I change my gimmick, if I change my name a little bit, my record goes away.
Brutus Beefcake would die for this.
Oh, but I guess it worked because if you remember Wrath from the Mortis and right?
Wrath.
When he became, well, he was just Wrath again, but instead of being all Kung Fu Ninja, he was just the new Goldberg and had that awesome 7-0 streak that Nash beat.
Yeah,
and they were like,
right.
watch, Nash can beat streaks. Like, he beat a guy who's won 7 matches since his return from injury, a.k.a. rebranding kind of thing. But just to go back where you're talking about the ratings, and what's interesting is the WCW ratings were 5, the WWF ratings were 5.8. And then by the time we get to this point where the WCW ratings are down to a 3, yet the WWF ratings were still consistent. So it's not like they were actually turning people off.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Or there were just a back and forth during those key times. Because that was the cool thing is most of the time back in the day we watched Raw live and we taped, or we watched Nitro live and you tape Raw because Raw would come on again, or Nitro wouldn't. Because, they had to show Mortal Kombat or Robin Hood or whatever shitty show.
movies for guys who like
Movies
movies.
for guys who like them.
That was Thunder. I know.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, so that's Stallone.
I don't care about shit, but coming up next is the Blues Brothers.
Here's Joe Bob Briggs.
That's what I was gonna say. I remember on the Saturday. What was the
Monster Vision.
What was the Saturday version of this type of thing where they have somebody talking about a movie in between commercial breaks?
Well, there was dinner in a movie.
That's it.
Remember Dinner in the movie joined the NWO?
Right.
Because Kevin
Annabeth Gerwich and
oh my god,
I used to love that.
Kevin
show.
Nash. I remember the one Kevin Nash was on for Rocky 3, and he was like downplaying Mickey's death. He's like, just pushed him.
Oh, for God's sake! Hey, he said that. He buried Burgess Meredith.
Well, I'm sure on the WWE Network, in one of the 3 incarnations of Nash that we see on there, he would be happy to bring up the fact that, hey, just getting the money, man.
Well, there's Stoner Nash. There's I'm accepted that I'm old and gray Nash. Then there's the no, I've used the Just for Men beard in my hair.
Yeah,
That crappy half mustache that he's
terrible, dude.
All right, but getting back to it, like the first thing I noticed right off the bat, you know what it says on the network? The tagline for this is?
Oh, there's 2 taglines. There's 2. Let's see. Hold on a sec. Yeah, here we go. The one that I saw that was most obvious was when our inner animals come out to play. Which I was
That's the little poster.
Yeah.
On there, the little thumbnail or whatever is that.
I was like, okay. But then I found the second tagline.
This is the one.
And this is why I was like, I can't wait to talk to Will about this. The stuff nightmares are made of.
That is my final line in the notes, and there's good reason for it.
What a great, foreshadowing of what we're about to watch. And on top of that, when the program starts, Shivani coughs really loud.
I didn't catch that.
I had to rewind it. Well, welcome to... I'm like, well, we're off and running, folks.
You guys were talking about the set, and you nailed it when we were talking off air about it.
Well, where the taglines on the network have this, the subtitle for Halloween Havoc is 1999 is sexual harassment is A-OK. Because throughout, we'll discuss it, but just starting with the set, you have the giant end boss from Killer Instinct 2 dry humping the shit out of an inflated jack-o'-lantern with Slim Jim at the bottom of it as the tiny third man in a threesome.
And Halloween Havoc was one of those pay-per-views I loved.
The best gimmick pay-per-view.
And that, because that's when it goes back to 90, or was it 89? Was that
89 with the Road Warriors on the front cover?
Yeah.
Well, it's the best guest stars. You got Elvira as the host, Chucky as your host.
Right. So, this one, as we talk about, heading into it, you had your main event with Sid and Goldberg. The undercard main event, I guess, of was right underneath it was the world title match with Sting defending against Hulk Hogan.
Well, by this point, it was old news.
Yeah.
Get to that.
But all right, so as the show opens, tempting. we get a lozenge needed Tony Schiavone. He needs one. Tony's got to go 3 hours. But
why wear dark, folks?
We hear immediately Tony and Bobby tell us, of course, Bobby the Brain Heenan for those who aren't counting at home, but